The final brawler coming into the next update is an epic tank named Bolt. He is both skillful and utterly skillless, and yet somehow he is a ton of fun to play. But is he going to be any good? Well, by the end of this video, we are going to figure it out as we put him 1v1 versus every brawler in this game. But first, let me tell you all about him and what he can do. At max level, Bolt has 10,800 hit points, so pretty standard for a tank. His movement speed ranges from very slow to very fast, depending on how fast you get rolling. You'll see that there is a speed bar below his ammo slots. The dots slowly fill up until they turn orange at full speed. Just by rolling into somebody, you do damage. Actually, more precisely, just by moving while within someone's hitbox, you deal damage. So you can actually just stand there and spin on somebody and deal the lowest damage that he can output, but the faster you go, the more damage you deal. However, when you use his attack, it will double the damage that he deals for a maximum of 3,600 damage if he's rolling at full speed. The timing of the attack has to be just right though. In fact, he doesn't even really attack, he just buffs himself. So when you press the attack button, he will gain a small burst of speed and give himself that damage buff that doubles his damage. This buff, however, only lasts for about half of a second. On top of that, his ammo reloads very slowly, so it's not a shot that you can spam out. But that attack at max speed can do even more, because with his first star power, whenever he hits somebody while going full speed, it knocks them up into the air briefly, which can disrupt their attacks. But if you don't want your attacks to be disrupted, then his second star power is for you. It's called Unstoppable. With this, whenever you use your super, you're immune to crowd control and you get 15% more top speed, which will also cause your main attack to deal more damage. His super is called Overdrive, and basically, it's a bunch of buffs to his normal movement, which just rolling around will auto-charge that super up, and that super is, well, it's more of him rolling. But he gains a 40% damage reduction shield, more speed, and leaves a trail behind him that will damage enemies. Now that shield is helpful though, and his gadget can be used for even more. It's called Oil Change, and when pressed, it will give you a shield that absorbs between 2,000 to 4,000 damage, depending on how fast you're traveling. But if you're tired of just rolling around, you can get his second gadget called Bouncy Ball. With this aimable gadget, you can leap to the target location, which is a very short range, and break walls or the environment. However, it does reset you back to your slowest speed. One last thing here is that there's a bar in front of Bolt, and it's basically his turning meter. If you make sharp turns, he will lose his speed, and this bar is an indicator of how far you can turn before that happens, which you do not want that to happen because he deals very little damage without speed. So actually, he's a very simple brawler, but also very different than anything else in the game. But let's see how he does, starting with the weakest competition and working our way up the food chain to the toughest. Since we're starting off with the weakest brawlers in the game, Bolt should have no problem rolling over them, right? Well, as you can see, Barley did some good work, but Dynamite takes him down with the very strong double sticks of dynamite that guy's tossing out. But hey, at least he can kill Oh. Now you might just be wondering why I don't just keep rolling around and take another loop back around, and I'll show you why in a second, but first, he has to take care of Larry and Lori, which he does so comfortably. Sprout really doesn't stand too much of a chance due to the massive hit point disparity, and Juju is right there in the same boat, which finishes off the throwers with a 5-2 record, which would normally be okay, but not so much for a tank. So here's the deal. In a game, you're not just going to stop and wait around unless the other brawler is like really close to death, but even then, you got some teammates to take care of that. But in these tests, if you just keep making loops to keep your speed high, by the time you loop back around, both brawlers have healed up a ton, if not all the way, and this would basically be a never-ending match. And as much as I'd like to collect that sweet AdSense revenue from a 20-hour video, I don't think that you guys would stick around for that. So this was really the only decent way that we could make this happen. In fact, we tested it a bunch of different ways, and this actually ended up being the best way to get the best interactions from him. So yeah. Anyway, throwers. In a game, Bolt here has a gadget that breaks walls, so not only can he jump over walls, but he can destroy them in the process. Now that does leave him vulnerable until he picks up speed again, but just so you know, as a thrower, you are not safe. He will destroy your cover. Plus, he rolls really fast, so it's going to be tough to even hit him. Even if he's just doing drive-bys dealing 3,600 hit a pop, you're going to be harassed by him a lot. So let's see if he can harass the marksman. As Bolt makes his big loop to take on Brock, he takes a bunch of damage before he even gets there, and this is intentional because in a game, you're basically going to be target practice. You might be a harder target to hit, but a huge steel ball rolling across the field is going to be irresistible to not fire at. The bright side is that you're going to be pretty tough to hit just due to the pure speed, but the downside is you can't make sharp turns or try to juke without losing a ton of speed or breaking out of the roll altogether. And when he isn't rolling, he is insanely slow. So making slight swerves is probably your best bet to get people to miss you, and they will miss quite a bit by doing that. But we got to see how he does without those moves, and the answer is pretty decent. He's able to absorb all of Mandy's shots, but she has a shield, and that helps her get a win in a pretty close one. Maisie, however, deals a ton of damage, and she deals it fast. And while Angelo may deal huge damage, that ramp-up time is not doing him any favors as he goes down. Janet suffers the same fate, as after that big initial hit, the time between his attacks is enough to finish her off. And then we have Pierce. With all of his shots and then picking up some mags, he's able to take care of Bolt with health to spare. Now 5 and 6 is not the worst result here, especially because these marksmen get to unload their shots before he ever gets there, but really that's going to be just normal for Bolt. There's almost no surprise attacks with this guy. He has to get that speed up to deal good damage, and to do that, you can't take sharp turns, so everyone is going to notice the big ball of steel rolling their way, and they're not just going to sit around and wait for him to strike. So that 10,000 hit points gets taken away pretty fast. In a game, marksmen are going to have a harder time hitting him. With that speed, he is going to run people over, or roll them over. But being able to actually finish the job is another question, and it's not going to be as easy. So let's hope the support brawlers are easier than the marksmen. Coming in to face off against the support brawlers is a nice change of pace for Bolt because they don't have a ton of damage, either sustained or burst. And on top of that, they also usually don't have a ton of health, so they're pretty easy pickings. Well, I mean, except for Pam. She's just built different and he has no chance. Barry's ice cream isn't doing much damage, but it heals him, which makes it close. Max, however, has a lot of damage and more than she usually gets credit for, but Byron is, well, Byron. Ruff unloads his shots quick, but he doesn't have much health. Gray's fake injury star power completely saves him in this one as it cuts his first roll down next to nothing and he gets the win. And Doug, well, this is kind of Doug's wheelhouse, and there is no shot he is losing in this matchup with his damage. And speaking of damage, Jay doesn't have much of it, and as a result, he gets steamrolled. Glowy does better with his extra healing from his star power, but it's just not enough. And finally, there is Kit. I mean, he did some damage, but it still ended in defeat for the cat. So Bolt only went 7 and 5 against some of the weakest brawlers in the game. Not a great look. Bolt's first hit with his attack time just right does a lot of damage, and most brawlers are going to be terrified of that. So that means they're not going to just stand still for you like they are in these basic tests. As well as afterwards, they're going to be on the run, so you're going to want to keep rolling throughout and do your best to chase them down without losing speed, and that might be tough to do sometimes. You'll have to find some lanes to roll through, and that might restrict the usefulness of him on some maps. This is a bizarre brawler, but he does have some really good upside, which I'll talk about near the end. But against the support brawlers in a game, I think you'll actually be doing just fine. You're mainly just going to be harassing them nonstop, even if you don't get the kill. With the threat of that massive damage and having your presence be a constant worry, the pressure that you're going to put on them is going to be tough. Especially since the support brawlers usually have a lot going on that they need to keep track of, they won't have much time to think about healing their teammates if they're nonstop worried about you rolling over the top of them. But a class Bolt himself should be worried about is the assassins. Bolt has been rolling over most of the competition up to this point, but now is where it's going to start to get tough because these brawlers can pump out vastly more sustained and burst damage than he can. Sure, that 3,600 damage up front hurts, but if he wants to stay in the fight, then he has to lose his speed, and that ties directly into the pain that he can inflict. And instead, he is the one that's getting the hurt put on him. It's actually a lot tougher than it looks to perfectly time his follow-up shots to get that double damage. And even when you do, at low speed, 2k damage isn't going to do a lot for you when you're getting pummeled by these high damage brawlers who were made to put down almost any brawler in the game. That being said, this is Miko's worst nightmare and he gets wiped out fast. It's a close one versus Melody, but he's able to stay inside her notes to narrowly get a win. Lily has quite a bit of burst damage, but it's not the greatest sustained, and in the end, she loses. Ali has no choice but to run headfirst into some serious damage, and in the process, gets flattened badly. However, there is nowhere to run from Gigi as she absolutely dominates Bolt. Now, we gave Bolt a break with Nova as she was resigned to use her range attack. If she had her sword out, she would have destroyed him. Unfortunately for my favorite brawler Crow, his health let him down as he quickly expires. Leon deals more damage up close and Bolt rolls right into those shurikens. Same with Cord, it's just flat out too much for him to handle. Now, Kenji's a tough one because with both of them moving, he can never get a chance to really get going, but even with that, in the end, he takes the win. Kaze also runs straight into danger and gets knocked back, but it doesn't matter too much as in the end, with a close fight, she comes out on top, which leaves Bolt with a dismal record of 9-11 versus the Assassins. Now, this one is a strange one, but honestly, Assassins probably have a huge upper hand here. All they really have to do is wait for Bolt to lose his speed, and when that happens, he's a sitting duck. He will not be able to generate any damage and he will be served up to these assassins on a silver platter. His only real move here to survive is to run or roll away. Luckily, he has a super that gives him a big speed boost and a shield gadget to help him survive. So he won't be a super easy kill if he can get going, but when he's at a standstill, he just cannot fight back. However, rolling at full speed, most brawlers, including assassins, won't want to take him on and will just avoid him until he's forced to come out of that roll before they go in there and strike. And to top it off, many of these assassins have really fast movement, like dashes and jumps and other things that will make it actually hard for Bolt to connect that big shot. Chalk this one up as a win to the assassins as they control this fight. But what about the actual control brawlers? Surely he will do better there, right? The controllers have a wide variety of brawlers here that have a bunch of different styles to get the job done. Bolt really only has one, and that's just to keep on rolling. It makes sense that he's on the basic side since he's just an epic brawler, but he is going to be a threat, make no mistake. Especially since quite a few of the brawlers in this class are more on the weaker side of strength. They're going to have a hard time getting hits on him since many of their shots are also a bit slower when it comes to projectile speeds, so he is absolutely going to be able to get in some hits on them, and that is going to send most of them running for the hills, or at least to find some cover, since he has a hard time that are attacking brawlers that are around walls because he can't make sharp turns without losing speed and therefore his damage potential. And Mr. P doesn't get double bounces this time as he gets ran over. Bolt goes vroom vroom all over Squeak, but he fights back and makes it close. Lou straight up freezes him before he gets there and he is helpless. And for Otis, his damage is just too much and Bolt's tires get deflated. He actually doesn't have tires, but it was a car pun. When a train meets a metal ball that rolls straight into each other, yeah, the train's gonna win, and Chuck does just that. And surprisingly, Bolt can't seem to outlast a yo-yo thrown by a French woman. Who would have thought it? But Ziggy? Yeah, that's just not gonna happen for him here. Bolt is clearly an off-road vehicle as well, and Sandy's sand doesn't affect him as he off-roads to a win. But clearly, Bolt's ride didn't meet fire safety standards as he's left on the side of the road burnt to a crisp by Amber. And while it was a very close match against Sirius, in the end, only one star is left and it's a villain in a mask. So that leaves Bolt with a mediocre record against these controllers, but how will he do in a game? I actually think that this is probably one of his better matchups, and if the map allows him to get some good lanes rolling around, then he'll probably do just fine, but the controllers are going to have a hard time controlling that rolling ball because his speed and pressure should just chase them around the map. However, he might be the one running from the next group, the damage dealers. Now, it's been a long day for Bolt, and unfortunately for him, it's not going to get much better in this matchup. These brawlers are the ones that put out the damage, and Bolt does not, in any way, shape, or form, have sustained DPS. He is a hit-and-run type brawler, and plain and simple, it is not a great style for testing these base-level interactions. Now, that doesn't mean that he's going to be a bad brawler, but I'll get to the recap of it all at the end of this video. When it comes down to the matchup versus the damage dealers, He's just not well suited for this one. He's a very strange brawler to play, and unlike anything that we've seen come to the game, so putting him in this spot is a place that he's not going to thrive. Lola thrives on taking brawlers down with a bunch of health, and Bolt is no different. Pearl is the same, but with even more damage, so yeah, we know how this ends. Terra up close deals a lot of damage if all cards hit, and here they do. Luckily for Bolt though, Eve is not that type of brawler, and her low health allows him to get a win. But RT and that extra damage mark really does a number on his health bar. Clancy, even at stage 2, also deals a ton of damage, and his range helps him get a head start as well. Mo's damage is pretty inconsistent though, and that giant steel ball is able to smash a mouse. Lumi gets all the damage and then some to get a nice win over Bolt, but Bolt comes back strong with a win over Mina that I thought would honestly go the other way. Nausea? More like nausea chance. That was a very bad play on words of not a chance. You know what? Let's keep going. Spike is able to dish out the damage, but he can't seem to take it as Bolt gets a much needed win. Surge tries his best, but in the end gets beaten by Bolt. But good old trusty Chester cracks Bolt's shell and sends him packing. So 11-9 is actually better than I thought he would do. However, in a game, I don't think that you're going to want to try picking on these brawlers. Their damage is just going to be too much unless you've got a super or your shield gadget to help you out. It's a tough one, but one that the damage dealers should come out on top with. But now, there is just one class left, and yes, I have saved the worst for the last. The tanks. Alright, so let's just get this out of the way real fast. No need to prolong the hurt. Bull wins. Primo pummels him. Rosa buries him. Daryl says that he's the only one allowed to roll. Jackie beats the living shit out of him. Frank smashes him. BB knocks him out. Ash takes out the trash. Hank pops him. Trunk gives him a swirly. Buster busts him. But I mean, hey, at least he beats Ollie. That's not nothing. Damien knocks his block off. Meg blasts him to smithereens, and Draco just shreds him. Yeah. 1-14. That's bad. That's real bad, especially for your own class. So then, you've now seen Bolt 1v1 versus every brawler in the game. How good is he going to be? Honestly, I have no freaking idea. This brawler is so strange, and in a game, you're going to be playing him very different than the style you've seen. You're going to be rolling all around the map, harassing people, disrupting play. Like, he's not a lane brawler. He's not a mid, and he isn't even like a normal aggro brawler, although probably that's the best analogy. He's more like a new class, like a disruptor. He's just going to be rolling around causing havoc, and I'll be real, it's fun. Honestly, it's really fun to play him. He does have a wall break that is very nice, but perhaps the coolest thing that I've seen from him is in Brawl Ball. If an enemy has the ball and you roll at them at full speed with the knock-up star power, they'll just lose the ball and you'll pick it up instantly. Like, you straight up steal the ball from them. However, he does have some massive weaknesses. His shots are tough to time in rapid succession, but normally, I don't think you're even going to try to do it. You're just going to roll over somebody and then just keep on rolling and roll away, heal up, and come back for another swipe. All the while, charging your super. He's going to have a really tough time around walls because he can't take sharp turns without being converted into this completely pathetic, slow robot that's totally useless. Truly, I can see this going either way. I think that he has the potential to be way better than you think that he's going to be, like legit way better. But also, I can completely see a world where your random teammate has Bolt and they're just rolling around the map trying to get people and they're just avoiding him, and it's basically a 2v3 because your teammate's just, bonking into walls and rolling around in the back of the map. You don't know what he's going to be doing. It's going to happen, 100% going to happen. So I don't even know how to rank this brawler. So I'm just going to give him a question mark out of 10 because it's such a different brawler that I don't know what to think. Other than, again, he is fun to play, and perhaps that's really what's important because the rest of it is just balance. So what do you think about Bolt? Let me know in the comments down below and get out there and enjoy the update.